Hello, I'm Mr. Dady, and today we are going to talk about adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing equations. That's a lot. I combined a lot of your sections that you're already doing, and I just put them into one big thing because I don't make a ton of separate videos. So we're going to go through each one. First, adding. And this is just basics of how to do it. It might be a review for you, might not be. So we're going to just go through it. So adding, so x plus 2 equals 18. So the first thing I always say to do is draw a wall. So through the equal sign, just draw a line straight through it. And now you have two separate pieces. So whatever you do to this side, you have to do to this side, all right? And this is how I set it up. I learned this teaching. It makes it a little bit easier if you are struggling. So I have letter, number, number, all right? I want to get all my numbers together, but I want to keep all my letters together. The letter is just a variable, and these are constants. We want to get our constants together, and we want to keep our variables separate. So to get our numbers together, we have to use an inverse operation, right? So the inverse operation of addition is subtraction. So to get the 2 across the wall, we use the inverse operation. So what's the difference in adding 2? Subtracting 2. So I subtract 2 from both sides. So 2 minus 2 is 0. 18 minus 2 is 16. And then I can just get rid of the 0 because it doesn't really matter. I have x equals 16. And that is our answer. But you have to make sure whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So then our next problem. X plus 13 equals negative 6. I draw my line through my equal sign. And then if you want to, you can label it. You don't have to. I'm just going to do it for consistency's sake. So I have letter, number, number. I'm going to get my letters or my constants, whatever you want to call them, away from, and my variables together. So I'm adding 13. So the first thing I have to do is subtract 13. That is the inverse operation of adding 13 to x. So 13 minus 13 is 0. Negative 6 minus 13 is negative 19. I can get rid of the 0 because it doesn't really matter. So x equals negative 19. So that is two examples on adding equations. So now we're going to do subtraction. X minus 3 equals 5. What's the first thing we do? We draw the wall through our equal sign. It splits it into 2. Now I'm going to label it just for consistency. So now I am x minus 3. What is the inverse operation of subtraction? Addition. So I want to add 3. What I do to this side, I have to do to this side also. And there you go, x equals 8. I'm going to stop doing this step right here, just because it's the same every time. Once it's gone, it's gone. And if we plug 8 into x, that gives us our solution. So our second one, x minus 10 equals negative 8. All right, another subtraction. What's the first thing we do? We draw the wall. To go over the wall, you have to do an inverse operation. Letter, number, number. So since we are subtracting 10, what do we have to do now? Add 10. add 10 to both sides, we get 0 here. We bring the x down. Negative 8 plus 10. That's the same thing saying 10 minus 8. Did you get 2? So x equals 2. Come up here and plug that into x, and that is what you get. On to multiplication. 2x equals 8. Now we're dealing with multiplying. First was addition, then subtraction. We're going to do the same steps we did before. Draw the wall. We have a number here, but now we have a number and a letter combined. That's all right. So that means when you have a number and letter combined, you cannot use addition or subtraction. All right? Now we have a coefficient, which is the 2. That was one of the terms we went over before, attached to a variable. What process is being done here? Multiplication is being done here. So this is saying 2 multiplied by x. 2 times x. So what is the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So I divide both sides by the coefficient, or the number in front. These will cancel each other out, and then you just get an x left over. 8 divided by 2 is 4. X equals, all right? So here's our second one. We have a number, letter, and a number. So here we have a number, letter, or a coefficient attached to a variable. So what is being done here? What process? Multiplication. What is the inverse operation of multiplication? Division. So you divide by the coefficient, or the number in front, from both sides. The negative 3's will cancel each other out every time. And you'll be left with x. In this case, you have negative 10 over negative 3. They do not divide into themselves equally. So you will just keep it as a fraction. But can you simplify that? Whenever you divide a negative by a negative, what do you get? Show you your smiley face again. A negative and negative gives you a positive, if you watch the other video. So this will become positive 10/3. And now for our last one, division. This tends to usually be the hardest one because people don't usually like fractions. This looks like a fraction, so people usually freak out about it. It's not that hard if you consider what we've been doing, all right? So x divided by 4. We keep with the same thing we've been doing. We draw a wall first, and then we figure out what is being done here. This is x divided by 4 if you've never seen it written this way. X divided by 4. So we know division is happening. What is the inverse operation, or the opposite of division? Multiplication. So to get rid of this 4, you multiply this whole side by 4. You multiply this whole side by 4. Putting parentheses around something just means multiplication. Same as with the dot. So these 4's will cancel out, and you get x left over. They cancel out because then if you just multiply, you multiply across, and you end up getting 4x. Then you have the 4 and the 4, and they cancel. 3 times 4 is 12, so x equals 12. If you plug 12 back in for the x, you get that answer. And our last one is x over 2.5 equals negative 4. Same thing here. What is being done? Division. What is the inverse operation, or the opposite of division? Multiplication. So I multiply this whole side by 2.5. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So this cancels each other out. You have an x. Now you have a negative and a positive. So going back to the smiley face, if I have a negative times a positive, what do I get? I get a frowny face, which means negative. Then 4 times 2.5 is 10. So x equals negative 10. And that is how you do a basic one-step equation with adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Next, we'll move on to two-step equations and multi-step equations.